We called him T twice, because his middle name starts with a T too, so we called him T twice. And this was my best friend. And it's the first time that I ever dealt with murder. It was the first time I ever dealt with death and a gun causing serious, unreversible things, right? So this was my best friend for many years. Towards the end of his life, he just kind of was getting into things I wasn't into, and so for the last like 2 to 3 years of his life, we weren't as close as we were previously. We were best friends from the age of me. I was from 7 to 15, I want to say, or 7 to 14. We were best friends. And then 14 or 15, and then the last 3 years, we weren't distant. Don't get me wrong. We see each other every single day, every day. Talked every day, all that. But I go home at night. He go hang out at night. Go drinking, whatever. Because he was a couple of years older than me. When he passed, I was 18 and he was 21. So 20 or 21. So what happens is in Seattle, Washington. I know a lot of people don't know much about Seattle, and like you don't hear, you probably don't think of violence and bad neighborhoods and whatnot when it comes to Seattle, right? But it was at one point in time, Seattle was pretty tough, rough, and there was 2 sections of it. North Seattle was the safest place in the world, but you had West Seattle, which it got funky out there, but you had the Central District and the South End. The CD in the South End always beat. However, there was beef inside the CD also. Just, within that area, there was sections. And I grew up in what's called the Valley Hood. And Valley Hood consisted of all bloods. All bloods. One crib. All bloods, and so they were Paru. They came from California in the mid '80s, came up and created that in Seattle, right? So Seattle's full of Bloods and Crips, big time. So Valley Hood Paru, okay, is what it's called. When I say most, I'm talking 98% of the people I grew up with were Paru. Now, T twice. Let me first say this. T twice was one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And listen, this isn't because he's dead and I'm talking good on him. I bragged about him when he was alive. I used to go to people and be like, man, my boy T twice, you can't beat him in basketball. Like, he's the best in this state. I don't care who you bring, he'll kill him. He's that nasty at basketball. And his personality, he just had this swag about him, he had this aura about him too. And it was hard not to love him, Let me go straight to what happened, okay? In that neighborhood, there's sections. So you have the Valley Hood, Pirus, which is where I grew up, and it's literally a valley. And once you go up out of the valley, you're going to hit Union, and Union was another section, and like a gang, right? The Union is a gang, and then there's Deuce 8, and then there's LP, and that's all in the Central District. And at one point in time, all may have had beef with one or the other, you know what I mean, inside of the CD. However, there was still more static towards the south end, but there was just inner beef. It was what it was. So when we were younger, we would hang out with the Valley had a lot of basketball hoops. The park had three dunkable basketball hoops, and then it had a full court basketball hoop in there. So all we did was play basketball. We played basketball every day. And big time basketball players, I'm talking about cats that are in the NBA right now, and had been in the NBA, would come to the Valley to play basketball because it was that place. Like if you come to the Valley and you can hold your own, sorry about that, hold on. Okay, so excuse me. So if you came to the Valley and you could hold your own, that meant you could ball, you could hoop. You was good. If you could come to the Valley and and hold your own on the court, we were all raw down there. Like all of us could have went to the NBA. I mean, if things would have went a certain way. Not all of us, but a lot of us could have. But we went a certain way. Things happen. You guys, you might not know the story, but if you grew up in bad neighborhoods, you grew up in the hood, you know those stories. But T Twice was the best basketball player I ever seen in my life, ever. Just unbelievable. He defied gravity at times. Like, I see him do stuff that, like, I question today, like, how did he do that? And so at one point in time, Union was the closest out of all those I named. Union was the closest to us, so they would come down to our neighborhood, play basketball, with us. Everything was cool. We were all cool, Like when we were younger, we're not even thinking Valley Hood Union. We weren't thinking like that when we were younger. It wasn't until we started getting older, mid-teenagers, and then it was kind of like, oh, we Union, we do say, LP came a little later, but there's we LP, Valley Hood, and there's somewhere else too. There's another one. Yesler Terrace. Yesler Terrace was another neighborhood. We were cool with Union, because of that. Well, T Twice started hanging with them. So instead of, he was hanging with me, he was hanging with, his brother and the rest of us. But then there was a point in time where he just kind of started hanging out with guys from Union. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? He started hanging with them because he would go up there and play basketball, and that's how he became friends with some of those guys up there. Well, some of the Bloods, some of the Pirus from the Valley didn't like the fact that he was always up there on Union, hanging out with the Union guys, because now we're at the age where there could be, beef, and it's just like choose sides kind of a thing. Now, mind you, while I'm telling you this story, I was never any of this. Like I was never a blood. I was never any of that. Okay, just let you know that. Me and two of my other good friends, we never were in gangs. We were just from that area. Now there's a lot of people that thought we were, because everyone was except us three. So people kind of assumed that we were Bloods, but we weren't. I was going to school every day, doing my homework and thinking about college. That's what I was doing. But these are the guys I grew up with. I love them to death, and so it was what it was. So, the Bloods didn't like that he was hanging out with the Union guys, and so they, tried to hop out on him. I seen this happen. They tried to hop out on him, like, hey, come talk to me, and 2 cars deep, And he was like, he wasn't about to fall for the okie doke, so he walked up on his porch, and his uncle is feared. His uncle is feared, and that one man scared them 2 cars off. That's how feared he is. It's not a joke, like for real, The family he comes from are known for fighting. They're known for it. Okay, so didn't nobody want the fade from his uncle at all, let alone his brother, himself. They could have actually held their own, but the uncle alone, they were like, nah, and they left. Plus, they had a certain amount of respect for the Hatfields, period. And his younger brother, which is also one of my closest, I call him a brother. Same thing with T Twice. T Twice, his brother, his youngest brother, his 2 sisters. That's all my family, and I call them my brothers and my sisters. And the grandma just passed away not too long ago. That was my grandma. Eventually, T Twice stopped hanging with the Union cats, and he didn't stop doing it out of fear from the Bloods. He just naturally stopped hanging with them because it's just what happens when you're growing up, and you might be friends with this guy, and then Nas, I think, said a thug changes, a love changes, and best friends become strangers. It's just life. So he started hanging with other people now. Now he's not hanging out with Union anymore. And just to cut to the chase, the Union, someone from Union or multiple, got upset with him for, I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know if it was jealousy. I don't know if it was over a girl, or if it was just like hood stuff, like, oh, why first you was Union, now you're back Blood kind of thing. But he wasn't in that like that. He was from the Valley. Like that was everyone knew that. So I don't know what the actual beef was about. All I know is I was a senior in high school, and I was just pumped. It was senior skip day, and I was excited because I had my license. My mom let me drive her car to school, and I was pumped. I'll never forget that day. I was pumped. I'm like, yes, I get to drive my mom's car to school. Like, this is about to be raw. So I drive my mom's car to school. I'm hanging. I got my good buddies that was with me. But one person, my boy T-Trip is from the Valley like me, and we both went to Ingram High School, and we just happened to be together. We didn't hang out all day at school, but he's my boy. Like, we call each other cousins. Like, he's really my close boy. And so I had pulled up in the parking lot, parked, feeling myself, drove to school. It's senior skip day, so I'm just gonna go to a couple classes, and then I'm bouncing. And so As I'm walking, all of a sudden this car pulls up, and my boy Sean Wingo, Jay Black, and Tamiko jump out the car, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, what's up, y'all? What y'all doing? And the look on their face was just, was like something serious. And I'm like, well, what was happening? What y'all doing up here? I think I'm messing with Black or somebody. I'm like, who got a license? You know what I mean? And Wingo said, T Twice got shot last night, man. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he's dead. And it's crazy because when they first said it, I didn't know. When I get shocked with something, this had never happened to me before. So I learned something about myself. When I get shocked with death, I might smile. And that's what I did. I smiled. Like, it was kind of like a unbelievable, what did I just hear? You know what I mean? Like, it was like, that was the smile, and then it turned into hurt, pain, and then anger, So my boy T Trip, he's hot. He's punching lockers, all this. And me and my boy Jerome, we got in my car and they followed me to Roosevelt High School. That's where a few of our other partners from the Valley go to school at. And so we went there, and the security seen us deep, and they're like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, look, our friend died last night. It's on the news. You've probably seen it. We need to talk to, J. Rue and Tat. And they're like, all right. So the security was cool enough. They actually took them out of class and brought them to us. And they were like, oh, what up, y'all? What up? What up? And I walked up to J. Rue and I said, T Twice got shot last night. He said, what? And he walked past me to the rest of them, was like, where's he at? And it was either Wingo or Trip. One of them said, he's dead, man. And there was about 15 of us. And we all just dropped our head. As soon as he said that he's dead, man, we all just, just like that. And the security was like, leave you guys alone, and they left. And we were silent for probably 5 minutes. It's a long ass time. We were silent, like no talking. We were just sitting there with our heads down for like 5 minutes. And then finally it was like, all right, what do we do? Now, at the time, like I said, I'm planning on college. I got, my mind is on some cool stuff. I'm also trying to graduate high school. I'm having some trouble. Everyone headed back down to the hood, and of course, because I grew up with a bunch of Bloods, obviously their mind is on retaliation, on who did it exactly, and that kind of thing. So what happened is, the night before senior skip day, while we all at home sleep, he's 21. And, I'm 18, he's 21. So he can go kick it, right? He can drink, So he's out, at the bar up the street. While I'm at home sleep getting ready for school in the morning, he's out kicking it. And he was with a friend of his up at the bar. Some cats from Union pulled up. Some cats from Union pulled up. And the person who was with my boy T twice, gave us the information on what was said, what happened, because he seen some of it. He took off running himself. But the cats from Union pulled up on my boy T twice, and the first thing they said is, "What hood you from now?" And they shot him. The dude had a Mac 10. He shot him, and my boy hit the ground. He fell on the ground, and then he started trying to crawl underneath a van to get away. And the guy kept shooting him, shot him a couple more times. And then the guy who was with him said he heard my boy say, "Quit tripping, man, quit tripping." And as he was trying to climb further under the van, the guy shot him in his back 3 more times. So he was shot 8 times total, I believe it was. If I'm not mistaken, he got shot 8 times total and died right there, crawling underneath the van, trying to get away. So I've felt the hurt and pain. This is only one story I'm telling you. I have other friends and other situations that happened where people died, gun violence. It's not really gun violence, it's violence where the weapon used was a gun. Okay? But there was never a thought in my head, not for 1 second, not even a little bit, like nothing. Nothing in my head said, "Man, we gotta ban guns." Nothing in my head was like, "Man, guns are so evil, they're bad, we gotta do something about it." My mind never went to that. My mind was, I hate this shit. I hate gangs. I hate just beef for no reason. I hate jealousy. I hate this. I hate hood mentality, street shit. That's where my mind went. Never, not 1 second did I think about guns are bad. Because I know from the rip, from the very beginning. I mean, I've been dealing with guns since I was a kid, so I know we got guns. We're all good people, so guns are not it's not the issue. Obviously, it's poverty. That's what did it. Ignorance is what did it. Single motherhood did it. Drugs did it. Okay. That's where my mind was at. That was my best friend for most of my pre-adult life, and it hurt bad. And he was, it's always the cool guy, but it really is. I mean, he was the guy that everybody in the neighborhood that was younger than him looked up to him. They loved him. Like I said, it's hard to not love him. He was one of the greatest people I've ever known in my entire life. He really was. He started getting into drinking towards like the last 6 months of his life, but he had just turned 21 and he was just introduced. He wasn't getting plastered before that. He actually waited till he turned 21, and he was, being a young adult. And so, I wasn't drinking. I was only 18, so there was that, and that's why we weren't hanging out as much. But, that was my best friend for many years, and still one of my best friends, even after we weren't hanging out as much. You know, we were still brothers, you know, and he still is my brother, always will be. And his brothers and sisters are mine. Um, so yeah, you know, that's and another thing that it did to me though is it made me go, you know, man, I can't wait till I can carry a gun because this shit's crazy. You know, anything can happen. I mean, I had already had a 12 gauge pulled to my head at the age of 14. I had already been shot at by Crips. Like, you know, stuff had already happened to me. But that one was just a really hard hitter. And it made me think, man, you know, somebody could kill you for the wrong reason. Somebody can kill you for nothing. Somebody can kill you for nothing, literally. You know, I mean, just because they're high on PCP or whatever. So that's one, just one. I'm gonna. I figure I've told a lot of the stories where I had to use my gun to save my life, but I want to get out other things that kind of shaped who I am and my way of thinking. You know, um, I understand. What I understand is criminal warfare. Okay, I understand that, and there's a reason why I understand it, and so it's another reason why I train the way I train and move the way I move because I know how they think. I know how they, you know, what they want, why they're doing it. I grew up with them. Okay, I know how they think, and so um, it just kind of, you know, once I put these stories out, it'll a lot of more things will come together to make sense on why I am the way I am, you know, and why I'm so serious about self protection. So I'll always miss my boy T twice.